Dame Dash is reportedly relaunching a record label more than 2 decades after his split from Rockefeller Records. Now, some people will bring up DD172 or whatever venture he ran after leaving the label, but let's be honest about the track record here. The artists he often gets credit for elevating, they already had strong foundations before connecting with him. Currency had spent years building under Lil Wayne's Cash Money umbrella before anyone was talking about Dame Dash. Wiz Khalifa had the financial backing of Rostrum Records, the independent label behind both Wiz and Mac Miller, which provided the real capital that launched his career. What Dame Dash offered at that time was visibility and energy, not infrastructure. And to be fair, back then the industry wasn't as independently structured as it is today. Artists were just beginning to carve out that space. But here's the thing. Dame Dash hasn't broken a new artist in a very long time. He's had artists like Licky Nicky in his corner for years with little to show for it commercially. He puts out rock projects that barely register on the charts, and perhaps more importantly, he's accumulated a significant number of enemies within the industry. Signing with him could realistically limit an artist's opportunities just by association, because a lot of key players simply don't want to work with him. Now, he's posted something along the lines of, "Proud to announce my latest venture. We're searching for hungry, talented recording artists, videographers, engineers, and producers." But he's done this before. Dame Dash Studios existed and didn't produce much. How many times does this cycle repeat? Here's the honest assessment. Dame Dash is a motivator, a culture builder, and a connector, but he functions best as part of a larger machine, not as the engine running it alone. At Rockefeller Records, he had Jay-Z's vision and the legacy of Biggie's influence surrounding the entire movement. That combination was something special. Without those elements, the results just haven't been the same. That's not an insult. Some people are built to amplify a movement, and there's real value in that. But running a label solo requires a very different skill set. It's like saying one person single-handedly built the career of 2 Chainz or Lil Yachty just because they directed some videos. Sure, visuals can generate attention, but once you have that attention, you need radio relationships, DJ networks, proper distribution, record servicing, and marketing beyond content. There are a lot of moving pieces to this puzzle, and no one piece tells the whole story. Next, Khaled and Ross is now looking into potential fraud surrounding the Ray J versus Super Hot Fire boxing match that took place at Braindance. As most people saw, Ray J got knocked down. He got back up and immediately started making claims publicly, saying there was a prior agreement in place, that Super Hot Fire violated it, and that money had already exchanged hands. The core allegation here is that Super Hot Fire intentionally held back in the early rounds, specifically throwing no punches in round 1, which raised immediate red flags about possible fight fixing for gambling purposes, particularly around early round betting markets. That's not a gray area. That's illegal. If evidence surfaces connecting either party to coordinated betting on specific round outcomes, both Ray J and Super Hot Fire could face serious fines and potential legal consequences. Professional boxing requires licensing and strict regulatory compliance. This kind of allegation puts all of that at risk. Ray J's recent public behavior has been erratic, and this situation is only adding to a concerning pattern. Moving on, Paris Jackson is seeking an additional $463,000 in her ongoing legal dispute with Michael Jackson's estate. She stated that by the time this process is done, she intends to trace exactly where the estate's reported $3.5 billion in assets has been flowing. And honestly, that's a legitimate concern. Large estates with significant revenue streams are vulnerable to financial mismanagement and improper billing. People charging personal or inflated expenses directly to the estate. It's a quiet way to drain wealth, and it happens more than people realize. Which brings us directly to Floyd Mayweather, a story that deserves more attention than it gets. According to reports, individuals close to Mayweather, including Jonah Rechnitz and Al Heyman's former associates, allegedly siphoned millions through fraudulent wire transfers and fake investment deals. They reportedly pawned over $100 million worth of his jewelry for roughly $13 million. They took out loans against his properties, they sold his private jet. The financial damage was staggering. Mayweather earned over $1 billion across his career and still found himself owing the IRS while watching his assets disappear. It's a sobering reminder that wealth without airtight financial oversight is fragile, regardless of how much you earn. Flying on private jets and spending aggressively is one thing, but without the right people protecting your finances, even $1 billion can be reduced to almost nothing. Now for the Big U and Adrian Broner situation. According to a credible account that's been circulating, Big U discovered that Adrian Broner had been running a scheme where he allegedly cheated NBA players, specifically James Harden, John Wall, and Deshaun Jackson, out of over $1 million combined. Broner reportedly set up situations where these athletes lost significant money under questionable circumstances. Big U, operating on the West Coast, felt that since this happened in his territory, he was owed a cut. Broner reportedly refused, so Big U went back to the athletes involved, James Harden and Wall specifically, and offered to recover their money in exchange for $50,000. Whether you view that as justice or opportunism probably depends on your perspective. The broader point here is that Broner's reunion with content creator Dean may be driven more by necessity than loyalty. Broner generates more engagement when someone skilled at drawing out his personality is in the room with him, but his underlying judgment continues to raise serious questions. On the DJ Khaled front, it's come out that back in 2017, Drake was initially reluctant to contribute to the record that became To The Max. In order to secure Drake's participation, Khaled reportedly gave Drake 95% of the publishing rights on that record. That's an extraordinary concession, essentially giving away almost all of the long-term royalty income just to get the feature. Khaled and Rick Ross have both impressive lifestyles, private jets, luxury, everything, but it's worth understanding the financial structure behind how those deals actually work. Finally, Diddy is facing a civil trial tied to allegations that he dangled a woman over a balcony. The woman in question, Brianna Bongalan, is believed to be a close friend of Cassie Ventura, who testified during proceedings. According to the allegations, Diddy targeted her because her friendship with Cassie gave Cassie a sense of independence and outside perspective, something he allegedly wanted to eliminate. We'll see how that civil case develops. And to close on a lighter note, Drake is now sitting at approximately 97 to 98 million monthly listeners on Spotify, surpassing Jay-Z's record for Billboard #1s and closing in on territory typically reserved for global pop names like Taylor Swift. Jay-Z is not someone who takes kindly to having his records broken, so watch that space.